Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, thank you again for working so diligently on this budget proposal. As you can imagine, I have many questions, but I have four questions, and they're all related to Hanford, as you can imagine, a greatly important subject for our entire nation, but particularly important in the state of Washington as we are integrally involved in making sure that the tri-party agreement and many things are lived up to. So I have a question about the buildings I mentioned, the 324 and the 61810, and the fact that this budget decrease, I think I've said practically to every energy secretary that I have had the opportunity of working with since I've been in the Senate, I firmly believe that the energy secretary should be for life or until Hanford is cleaned up. Because as I mentioned, with a budget
that would
number—
extend beyond life.
I hope not. I think the issue is that, with such a large budget need, I think from time to time people come in with ideas and notions of how to, they think, cut corners, save dollars, and I have seen so many different proposals that have gone by the wayside where people try to implement something, it doesn't work, and then come back a few years later and fold on that, only to have cost us billions. So one of the things I wanted to, on this river corridor project, they are making good progress, but why not continue to make progress given that this radioactive plume is so close in proximity to the river, and that we want to make sure that there is important, Hanford-wide service account which ensures proper maintenance of the infrastructure, and to make sure that we continue to move ahead. So that's one question. Second, I want to understand what we're going to do in the next year on additional public meetings for focusing on defense waste cleanup. That's an initiative that, separating the commercial and defense waste and moving forward on that proposal is something that I think is very important for us to continue to do. And I know that there were cuts to the community support budget. This is something that's very important to the people in the Tri-Cities. Last year, there was a decision made to decouple defense waste and commercial waste, and then there was a process of holding meetings to define what consent agreements mean. And I've noticed that this proposed budget cuts the community and regulatory support. So this is important to places like Benton and Franklin and Grant counties so that they can focus on, having, comments in this process. And lastly, I also see that the historic, the Hanford National Historic Park budget does not reflect a contribution from the Department of Energy, and I'm concerned about that and want to make sure that DOI and DOE are going to work together to move forward on that. But my main question is, will you take a second look at this cleanup priority for the river corridor, and looking at that budget cut, and looking at how challenged we are on the site itself and its proximity, and look what we can do to remedy that cut?
Well, thank you, and I think I have the four questions. Well, first of all, of course, be very happy to sit down and kind of work through what the constraints and the opportunities are in the budget. Obviously, we are working with an overall constrained budget, and which we try to optimize for